Hi guys, it's Giggles. Before the narration starts, I wanted to try something new, which is to link a different cause in the description each month or every couple weeks, depending on the goal and the time left. So if you go and check out the link, it will be to someone's GoFundMe. The hope is that we can bless someone with money and encouragement and hope. I myself will include this in my tithing each month, but I felt it important to announce in my videos so that we can give money to someone who needs it, pay it forward, and, just help brighten someone's day. So don't be afraid to donate. Every little bit helps. Thanks for still being with me, and without further ado, it's story time. So it all started with a box of bees. It was deep within the stores of the company, in the depths where only the bravest dare enter. Well, that and literally about everyone with a basic level 1 access code. And in the depths, one could find a box of bees, all dead and devoid of any color. Bees that had once nested in the suburbs of North Carolina in an odd house that had always stood there. They called it the House of Tongues. My name is Canopy Hydrangea. I recover cursed artifacts, explore haunted places, and report back the information needed to the people I work for. The company then arranged what has to be done to remove these blemishes from the world. If it isn't possible, we make sure the evil of cursed artifacts in bizarre places doesn't make its way to the general public. But sometimes, it's important to leak a report or two to the unsuspecting public. Makes for a good warning, and this particular file is one of many that must be known. So team, I began as we sat around an old fireplace in the bakery turned cover for our base of operations. What has the company found us today? Rain, my key assistant, tuned up the old projector and pressed a few buttons. Kyron faked a yawn, and my scroll keeper, Cypress, laughed. We all stopped laughing when the image of a dead dog, bloodied and covered in long, piercing slashes, emerged. So let's talk about the House of Tongues, Rain began, changing the slide to an image of a remodeled but still old-looking house. This house was built back in the 1620s, and I'll cut Rain's exposition by a lot here. Many unnecessary details, but details that kept us intrigued and interested. The house built in 1627 was built by a migrating priest and his family. Initially, it was supposed to be a small cabin, a little summer place for rest and meditation. This all changed when, according to local mythology, the priest was offered a deal by an odd man in white and black. He called himself the Night Merchant, and the priest gave up his cabin, and within 7 days and 7 nights, a grand, expansive house replaced it. The licking began to take place nearly a year after that. Not much is known from the priest's records. As Rain tells it, his words were deemed heresy and burned. But we do know that the house, named Adar Place, changed hands over the centuries, though most records were lost to time. The most important records come after the end of the Great War. 1927. A family, the Bakers, moved into Adar Place, now remodeled to fit with a little town that popped up from the economic boom. 1928. William Baker's youngest daughter reports a sensation that night, a strange, rough feeling, as if she were being licked by a cat. Cats do not approach Adar Place. In fact, the house does not seem to welcome all but human life. Cats who approach it go mad and disappear. The family dog Baker brings along is found on the street, eviscerated by long, piercing slashings the police could never explain. 3 months later, the sightings begin. William Baker goes out one day to investigate mewling noises from behind the house. The entire backyard is trashed. Pots have gone flying, dirt has been dug, the entire garden has been uprooted. Darting around the corner are monsters, small, slender things, an ashen white with bodies as thin as sticks. Their bones show, the muscles pulse. But strangest of all are their heads, large and muscular, adorned with small horns that dot it, and 2 eyes he states as deep blue like the sea. Terrified and confused, William goes back to the house to fetch a rifle. When he goes back, though, they're vanished. The noises continue for the rest of the year, but always gone before he can take a good, clear look. But something else, far more chilling and incredible, has appeared. One of his 2 daughters has vanished. Both company and government records show that the Bakers only had 1 daughter, and yet in the cold winter of 1928, William Baker finds himself mad, shocked, as he begins to remember a daughter that never existed. An older daughter, he remembers, but try as he might, he can't picture her face, nor find any certificates, legal evidence she had ever existed. but in the halls of the house, she does. There's a bedroom with things that aren't supposed to be there. A bed, posters, books, all evidence a teenage girl had once lived there. But on paper, she does not exist. And neither does she exist in the minds of anyone else. His wife and only daughter do not acknowledge the extra room. His neighbors seem to avoid him. 1929. At night, they come. They appear as shadows in the windows, peering in with small hands, large blue eyes, and then they open a circular razor-like mouth and a long tongue with teeth emerges, licking the window and gently cracking it. William takes his rifle and journeys outside. The creatures seem to taunt him, gracefully avoiding his gunshots, leading him deeper and deeper into the woods that were not there when he bought the place. When he realizes, all too late, that his fences have ceased to exist. It's too late. The creatures are gone, and behind him, in the large house called Adar Place, there are screams. When William Baker finally finds the house again, everything is silent. His wife and child are gone. The creatures sit cross-legged and wait, tongues eerily lolling out. He shoots them, but the bullets always seem to miss. By dusk, they are gone. Legally, William Baker's wife and 2 kids do not exist. He spent the rest of his life telling the same tale in a mental asylum. He also claimed the creatures followed him there, always peeking in through the bars and windows. He was found near death one day, bizarre lacerations and slashings. A man comes by wrapped in shadow and gives him a buzzing box. Bees. And the creatures never appeared. Wait, Kyren cut in. You're saying that bees, of all things, stopped these tongue aliens? Rain nodded, almost in disbelief at the story herself. Whoever gave him those bees knew how to deal with them, she continued. However it works, it worked. William got out the asylum and lived the rest of his life as a beekeeper, Cypress guessed. Rain nodded. So if this case is closed, why has the company handed it over to us? Rain sighed in disappointment. As I was saying, she remarked, teeth clenched, the bees have failed. A slide displayed thousands of dead bees around the house. In 1937, 2 company agents bought the house and bombarded the place with beehives that have remained ever since, cared for by a gardener. She paused and switched it over to another angle. Last week, the gardener vanished, only remembered by a single surviving company agent. Any guesses as to what they want us to do? I nodded and gleefully raised my hand. They want us to clean it up. The bees and I tried to think of the name. Tongue aliens. Tunlians, if you will. That generated some laughter. Cypress, Kyren, you 2 are my containment experts. Cypress revealed a drawing on an iPad. Already working on a spell. Kyren shrugged. The new iron salt guns are ready. I looked at Rain in anticipation, wondering if there was more. That's about it. There's a similar story that happened in 1932, but same old, same old. She paused, thinking. We should also watch for artifact hunters. Sources suggest Loreno's crew might be looking to seize one of the, aliens for themselves. I practically growled. Loreno and his crew were a gang of villains that dabbled in selling cursed artifacts and cryptids to shady dealers. Cryptid smuggling? Rain nodded. Cypress noted this as well. If they show, boss, we'll take them out this time. By the next hour, we'd prepared all we needed. We stood by a large, symbol-adorned mirror and waited. Cypress chanted some ancient, long-forgotten poetry, and the mirror changed to a quiet street. Rain stepped through, then Cypress, Kyren, and me. And then we were face to face with Adar Place. I felt a sense of great discomfort. I muffled my ears, suddenly starting to hurt. Hear that? It was the sound of bees, buzzing all at once in a cursed, malevolent death knell. I screamed in pain and fell to the floor. Cypress caught me as I fell and read off of their phone. Infected beast of unholy. I drifted in and out as the ghost swarm dazed me. Begone! And it was over. My vision cleared. The house is powerful, I murmured. I don't think we're just dealing with the tongue things, I stammered, still dizzy. I reached into the ether. More than one entity. Kyren looked a bit worried. Should we call for backup? Nah, I replied. We can take it. We entered the house, the buzzing still in the back of my mind. As told, a swarm of bees lay dead around the place, and with every step we took, a loud crunch emanated, echoing around the house. Besides that, and the deep fear we all were beginning to feel, there was nothing. All the events happened at night, Rain reminded, and it is drip, drop. Something red and thick fell onto my hand. It was blood. Drip, drop. More began to fall from the ceiling, a river of blood pouring from cracks. It was cold and seemed to pulse in time, as if alive. Rain wrote into a journal, then collected a sample. Weird. It's not a threat. Chiron nervously pointed his weapon around. Well, I don't like it. Well, go on and iron salt it, I told. I don't like it either. Chiron nodded, reached into his bag, and found a sphere of white. We averted our eyes as he lit the fuse, tossing it up into the air and exploding in light. Spraying us with salt and fine iron, enchanted so that it would not hurt us. Enchanted so that it wouldn't hurt us. The ghost blood stopped and fell to the ground, evaporating into ash. One phenomena neutralized, Rain noted. We continued onwards until the house decided to shift itself, creaking, trying to spin its halls so that we would emerge back from where we came from. We were at the kitchen. Then it would creak, and the door we opened, back up front, I murmured. I'll handle it, Cypress offered, already beginning to chant. The place let out a sigh, and things were restored. It won't hold, though. And then they finally appeared. Little deformed things. Pale bodies, large heads, large bulbous eyes. They appeared in the corner of my eye at first, though as we ventured deeper into the house, they seemed to dart here and there. Chiron attempted to shoot them, but they seemed ever evading, always just out of reach. Rain noted them and sketched the beings. As we got deeper, the sound of the dead bees began to crescendo. And other noises. The sound of screams, of pleas for help. The house seemed to go on forever, unfolding, each layer of the house seemingly older and more arcane from the last. In front, it had seemed like a remodeled house. Inside, it was at least 30 years old. And in each subsequent hall, it got older and older. In the distance, we saw something dark and rocky. That's a cave, isn't it? I asked. Cypress's magic was of no use either. Wait, they paused, as we reached the cave. The shadows flickered within, and the creature seemed to whisper in the darkness. He spun around and gasped. I think we've been tricked. I turned to see a wall. A solid wall of paint and brick. That wasn't there the last time. I screamed as something lashed out, cutting me. Ah! A tongue drew into the darkness, sharp. Lights! Rain shouted, flickering on a lantern. The electric device sputtered and failed, illuminating about a dozen tongue things in the darkness, leaping out into shadow. Darn it! Chiron began to fire aimlessly as more and more tongues darted in and out, slashing us. Cypress? Boss? Solution? Cypress read off their phone, and a ball of light emerged in front of us, yet the darkness still remained. The wall behind us began to move, pushing us forward. The magician yelped, and tendrils of paint burst from the wall, ensnaring him. Help me! I flicked a knife open and him loose. We were being forced forwards. The wall behind us seemed ever fleshy now, tendrils of red, dripping limbs reaching out at us. In front, tongues lashed out, cutting us up one by one. But we continued to push, running forwards and firing as the wall of flesh behind us forced us into the darkness. Look! I shouted. A building! There was something there, ancient and carved from stone. The ruins of an ancient temple that seemed just like the house. Statues of the tongue things lay in wait, eerily inviting us in. The wall picked up speed, and we ran into the ruin, just as the wall crashed into its entrance, locking us within. A flash, then black goo. I got one! Chiron cheered, stepping over and picking it up. It whined, still alive, and a tongue lashed out only for Chiron to sever it. They can be killed. Rain was studying the walls of the temple. The death of the creature had scared them off, for now at least. This place is old. Like really old. I've never seen this. She gestured to the arcane symbols on the wall. Language before. Cypress knelt down next to two skeletons. Little marks of teeth all over. Must be the bakers. Around us were more skeletons, all marked by small incisions. Most were ancient, but some were all too new. A fresh corpse even lay in a corner, just a few days old. I looked at it. I recognized the corpse as a black market artifact dealer. Serves you right. Company agents, Rain gasped. A team, just like us, lay dead on the floor, recently deceased. I thought we were the first to come here in a long time. This place, I remembered, eats people. Memories. HQ probably sent them and forgot they existed. The scuttling came from deeper within, and the sound of bees suddenly stopped. An unceasing quiet came next, and suddenly I preferred the bees to the quiet. "I think," Cypress announced, "I can get us out of here." And then they reached into their backpack and brought out, of all things... "Is that a cat?" Rain puzzled. "Did you actually—" "I supposed it would come in handy," Cypress confessed. "Plus, it isn't mine and I've got to return it." "Enough, guys," I ordered. "Cypress, how does this work?" A glint in their eye came now. "Well," they began, "we know that the house hates animals, right?" We nodded. "Let's see why." And with that, Cypress released the cat and it trotted softly down a hall, deep into the temple. We followed, up until the cat stopped before a chamber, stone gates warding us off. I opened the gates, and then we saw it. This was some sort of congregation room, a grand hall filled with stone benches, ancient symbols of old religion, and thousands of the creatures, all sleeping, save for a dozen or so chattering and climbing the walls. Cypress pointed to light in the corner of the hall, where creatures popped in and out. "Daylight. A way out," I murmured. "Just have to get through all of this first," Kyrian pointed out. "Not necessarily," Cypress started. "I'll be right back." Cypress returned a moment later with the corpse of the tongue creature, then inscribed several symbols into it with a knife. They lit up, and we walked into the hall. Cypress leading us forwards. The creatures began to wake, jumping beside us and sniffing the air. "I've disguised us as a mass of them," Cypress explained. "Let's see how long this holds." The creatures ignored us, returning to hibernation. I observed the hall as we journeyed closer and closer to daylight. Statues of goat-like things watched us, tall and ancient, yet oddly familiar. The creatures tended to the place, lighting candles and even managing a small garden towards the back. They did not construct the place, but whoever did left them to tend for it, to keep it sacred, safe. "Oh no," Cypress murmured. "The spell's worn off." That's when the creatures began to shift, paying attention to us once again. Cypress gulped, found the cat, and threw it. "Run!" And so we did, towards daylight. The creatures lashed out at us. The cat seemed to distract them, pawing its way through the little beasts. "I need rope," Cypress commanded, just as the light shone above us. An opening seemed so far away. "Here!" I tossed it, and Cypress reached out and, with ancient art, floated it up. "Climb!" I shouted, already beginning to do so. "Go!" And as we climbed, the creatures did so too, leaping from the walls to seize us. Kyron fired and Cypress did strange art. I slashed them away and they fell to an ever-growing pile below us. 3 were on the rope behind us. "Take this!" Kyron slashed at the rope, cutting them loose. I rose into the light first, pressing open a grate and helping Cypress up. Rain came next, and then Kyron. I threw the rope over and shut the grate back down. Still, they stuck to the walls, still chasing us. I found an explosive, strapped it to the grate, and ran. A boom came behind us, and no opening remained. We were in the backyard. "I think," I murmured, "I'm going to submit this place for immediate destruction." And that was that. The place had been surveyed. Our job was done. We'd done all we could and found what we needed. We couldn't stop them on our own. A request was made, and the last time I heard of the place, it had been burned and collapsed, and creatures seized for further study. Another day was done. Another bizarre place kept under control. If you know a place marked by evil, let us handle it. Thanks so much for listening, guys. A quick shout out to my patrons. Kevin Kess, Sabiel Eclipse, 055555, Cormac Wells, Amara, Matthew Steiner, Cupcake Hips, Alonzo, Mr. Sankofa, Michael Milburn, Kozak, Icy Narrates, Jesse Hartley, Eric Cifuentes, Andreas Anderson London, Lawrence Wallen, Geek Sanctuary, Melissa Perez, and this guy. That is someone's actual username. I love that. Thanks again so much for watching, guys. If there's anything you would like me to pray for, I would love to know how I can be praying for you. I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.